Hi, I'm David Swanson, Executive Director of World Beyond War.
And I'm Emanuel Pastreich, the Director of the Asia Institute here in Washington, D.C.
And we're together because we want to encourage other people to join us and all the wonderful groups that are planning to strike DC. There is a website, StrikeDC.org, that a bunch of great climate activists have put together, and they're building the sort of coalition that many of us have advocated for and sought to be part of, and they're including peace groups like World Beyond War that see the interlocking connections between environmental destruction and militarism, the militarism that's driven by the agenda of controlling the oil. You see, when oil gets attacked in Saudi Arabia, suddenly the Great War is escalated, whereas merely bombing hospitals and school buses and jails is that's no big deal. And of course, the U.S. military is the top consumer of oil in the world, and one of the biggest destroyers of the climate, and the third biggest destroyer of U.S. waterways, and so on and so forth. And it's where the money is. So that's why I think I need to be involved in this.
So Strike DC will be September 23rd. We hope that everybody will be there. We're going to, as the website indicated above suggests, everyone should gather together, and we will actively protest against what's happening in Washington, D.C. and in our country and across the world. And I myself had just come back from Korea, where I worked with Extinction Rebellion on climate change, but of course related to the issue of security, one of the most misunderstood words in the dictionary. So we hope through this strike both to draw attention to our cause, but to actually start a real dialogue and real policy to start moving this country and the region and the world in a sustainable, survivable direction.
And we hope to wake some more people up to join us, because we need a lot more people in this struggle.
For sure.
We're going to be not just striking, leaving off work, we're going to be shutting down Washington, D.C., blocking traffic, blocking bridges, blocking roads. So think about joining us, joining a non-violent action against all the violence of environmental destruction and militarism. If you want to be in World Beyond War's affinity group, which is one of the many groups that are coming together to make this happen, go to bit.ly/WBW Affinity. That's bit.ly/WBW Affinity. And of course, go to StrikeDC.org.
So let me ask you, why do we need to shut down Washington, D.C.?
Because we're not getting anywhere with sending in checks that don't measure up to the checks of the oil corporations.
For sure.
And because people have to be grabbed by the shirt collars and shaken, because this is an emergency.
It's an emergency.
Wanting to illegally spend money on a wall on the Mexican border is not an emergency. The earth being turned into an inhabitable place is an emergency. And so there's the risk of inconveniencing people who shouldn't be inconvenienced, but this is something that's been done effectively recently in London, and we got to try it.
So, but what went wrong? I mean, I guess this is the question I keep asking myself. Why is it we have so many educated, capable people in the United States and around the world, and they're drawn into trivia of Donald Trump's last tweet, is that the right word?
Sure.
Tweet, but they can't seem to grasp these fundamental structural catastrophic changes.
Well, many people can, more than we're told, not enough, but more than we're told, but they're not given something to do that they think will be effective. They're told that they're powerless to do anything about it. They should be mournful and sad and gripe about it, but they aren't told what to do about it other than vote for, with clothespin in hand, for whichever candidates are less awful than the others. Well, this is not what's changed the world. Voting is very important, but it is far down the list of actions needed to change the world. We need a nonviolent movement of the sort that has created rights over the past centuries. This is not rocket science, it's what's needed, but there's this new, novel U.S. understanding that all you can do is sit around and moan or vote, and that's not right.
So the September 23rd Strike DC really is that opportunity for you out there to actually participate in something, to actually be involved, and it doesn't stop, right? It's a day-long strike, but the struggle will go on, and if you can come and join us, I guarantee you, for the two of us, we will find you a place in our movement going forward.
Absolutely. Again, sign up at bit.ly/WBW Affinity and at StrikeDC.org.
So, but I still am puzzled. I mean, I have so many thoughtful people around me who seem to be unable to cross that barrier from vaguely being aware of the risks of militarism and of climate change, which are, of course, two sides of the same coin, right? These are not separate issues. And they can't move to the next stage of actually doing something. What is it in the human brain or in the world, in our culture, that has made that barrier?
People are very, very good at self-deception,
Right.
at willful thinking.
Right.
And there is very often a tendency to believe what one wants to believe. And perhaps the least desirable thing in the world to believe is that the world is being destroyed.
Right.
I mean, we've spent centuries mocking the crazy guy with the beard with the sign that says the end is near.
Right.
Now, it's the most informed person on earth who's got the sign that says the end is near. And so we need to transform our understanding that that's the guy who's sane.
Right.
The rest of us are insane.
Right.
And that's not easily accepted.
Right.
That society, that the norm is insane. And
Right.
that weird individuals are actually thinking clearly. But that's where we have to get to. And we have to persuade everyone we can persuade.
So that's the purpose of disruption, is
Right.
to actually force people to sort of break out of their cycles of thinking and behavior, getting up in the morning, having your coffee or cafe latte, and going to work and making your money and coming home and playing with the kids, to break out of that cycle and give them a few hours in the traffic to seriously think about what could possibly be so important that people would chain themselves, glue themselves, sacrifice themselves, go to jail, or worse, in order to draw attention to something like this, like climate change.
That's absolutely right. And years from now, there will be no question. It will be
Right.
unavoidable that catastrophe was coming, because it
Right.
will be here,
Right.
As it already is in many places.
Right.
And the question will be, what did you do when you could still try to do something?
Right.
Right. And so this is why we have to act.
Well, one of the analogies which I find very helpful, and I used in one of my articles, is about the issue of slavery. So in the United States, slavery was quite acceptable, even in the North, where people invested in it, and it was an invisible issue. And those people who advocated in the 1850s to say slavery should be abolished were treated as wild radicals, even in slave-free parts of the country, because there was this perception that even though it clearly was criminal in its nature and was doing terrible damage both to people, to society, and to the culture itself, it was an accepted, peculiar institution.
Right. We're told war is inevitable.
Right.
It's somehow inevitable, even though every single war has to be carefully maneuvered
Right.
into, and we see the lies and we see the missteps.
You have to
It's
force
somehow
people into
inevitable. Well, look at the things that have been inevitable.
Right.
Slavery,
Right.
Military that's all male,
Right,
an electorate
right.
that's all male,
Right.
Hillary Clinton's election,
Right.
I mean, the things that have been inevitable, they're by the dozen, and
Right.
of course they're not.
Right.
Inevitable.
They're not.
It's also not inevitable that if you join in a nonviolent action in Washington,
Right.
D.C., that you're going to go to jail or suffer in any particular way. You're taking a risk. You're
Right.
taking a calculated risk that you may suffer a penalty. And those of us who are better positioned to be able to take that risk than others have an increased responsibility to take it.
For sure.
But it's also true that the more of us that get out there and the more we advertise and stand by our nonviolent principles, and the more we persuade people of our cause, including law enforcement officers,
Right.
the less the chance that we're actually going to go to jail.
And I would add to that that not doing something is an even higher risk across the
Absolutely.
board. So there
Absolutely.
may be some risk. You go, there'll be some inconvenience. Some people might even be detained or arrested. We can't say it's zero risk. But if you do nothing, I guarantee you 100% risk that you will suffer catastrophic climate change, and that militarism will create a society in which the so-called government is able to do truly unspeakable things in your name with your money.
Well said.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We have the information on the site here, but maybe say one more time.
StrikeDC.org. Learn more and sign up and get informed from the overall campaign. And if you want to join in and be nonviolent and take action on September 23rd in Washington, D.C., do it with our affinity group at World Beyond War. The website is bit.ly/WBW Affinity.
So we'll see you all on September 23rd in Washington, D.C., and keep up the effort.